Yeah, they call it the magic glasses.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, there's rules to the glasses. Once you put them on, you can't take them off.
Yep.
And then also once you have them on, you'll see things the way that they are, truly are, not what they're being projected to you. And then also you can't force someone else to wear them.
Welcome to the Angelic Frequency Podcast. We are your hosts, Christina Aroche
and Luisa Velez, and today we had a lovely conversation with Kurtis Lee Thomas. He is a spiritual healer, he's an author, and the founder of the Just Breathe Foundation. He has collaborated with huge brands like NASA and Nike and celebrities to promote mental health. We talked all about his signature Breathwork Detox, but also a lot of interesting rabbit holes. So I can't wait for you to listen. Let's dive in.
Welcome, Kurtis. We are so thrilled to have you on the podcast with us today. Welcome and thank you for joining us.
All right. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I was just mentioning how I'm getting more and more familiar with your work. But for our listeners who may not be familiar with who you are and what you do, we always like to start there in your own words. Kurtis, tell us more about yourself.
I'm nobody. So a lot of people know me for my breath work that I created, Breathwork Detox, the modality. I also wrote a book. This was like 10 years ago. I was just realizing how fast time goes by. It was like 2014. So wow, going on 12. And that was like my first spiritual book that was all about the laws of the universe, law of attraction, but then also went a lot deeper down the rabbit hole and talking about ascension and what's to come and why we're all here. And then I developed tools because a couple of things happened. I was dealing with my own health complications that led me to breath work. And then also I realized when you put out a spiritual book and all these, eye-opening, spiritual things that are meant to awaken people, that was the purpose of the book. Well, once they're awakened, they're like, now what do I do? So I was like, I don't know. So, I started to develop more and more tools on, how to help people through that process, which is beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so interesting. And yeah, the deeper you go is like, what do I do with this? Once you open the door to everything wants to come in and it's all at the same time. So it can be a little overwhelming sometimes because once you start diving into spirituality and your awakening process, it can be daunting sometimes. How do we tackle all this stuff?
Yeah. It's like ignorance is bliss, they say. Right?
Yeah.
I was like, well, that's baloney. But then now in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, I get it. I get it. Ignorance can be bliss.
Right. Because I feel like once you see, like, what you see, what you understand, what you know, you can't unknow it. You can't unsee it. And then once you see it, it's kind of like, well, I guess that's what I got to do now. Like, I got to follow that path now. I can't not follow it once you see it, once it's been awakened within you.
Yeah, they call it the magic glasses.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, there's rules to the glasses. Once you put them on, you can't take them off.
Yep.
And then also once you have them on, you'll see things the way that they are, truly are, not what they're being projected to you. And then also you can't force someone else to wear them.
Right. I love that.
Yeah.
Those are the great three rules.
Yeah.
It's tricky. And yes, just not trying to, impose on other people that are on their own journey and following their own trajectory because, so it tends to be a little, or it can be a little isolating in a way. And that's part of why we started this podcast, just to have normalized conversations around spirituality, around awakening. We talk about anything and everything spirit, but really to create a sense of community and help people understand that they're not alone, that there's other people like them that experience the world in a different way and they have someone to relate to and just to feel like they're in the room having a chat.
So important. That is literally so important. Like you guys heard the call and answered the call, because when I was awakening, it was back in 2011 is when the magic glasses went on. And like there was no Instagram, like there's no videos on Instagram that like just help people or give them confirmation, because sometimes confirmation and validation is just as good as new information. Mm-hmm. So you get this information and you're like, wait, is this true? Am I crazy? There wasn't all these people talking about it. I remember at one point when I went down the rabbit hole of extraterrestrials and whistleblowers and all that stuff, I watched every video on YouTube. Literally
You were
every
done.
video.
Like you went through the whole list.
No, I did. I was literally at all the Project Camelots, like all the
Right.
OGs. There was no Gaia, there was none of
Right.
this stuff,
Right.
and I was literally waiting with notifications on for new videos to come up.
Wow.
Now in 2025, going on 2026, I'd have to live 500 lifetimes to watch all the videos on. Like there's an
Right.
abundance of videos. So it's a much different landscape. And the good part of that is people like you and people like myself who are, coming out the closet and be like, hey, we're weird too. We believe in this stuff. And giving them the support. So really two things. They don't think they're crazy, and two, that they're not alone.
You're not
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah. It's so powerful. And it's really amazing to hear how you've kind of witnessed that transition through, like you just said, kind of there was nothing online. It was kind of at a time when I feel like social media was just starting to gain traction even and just kind of like be a thing for people in this way. So how did that start off for you in your journey? I know you mentioned the health issue that you had. Was that kind of like the launching off point for you? And it within that part of your journey, what was the feeling like for you where you knew that you had to follow this path?
Yeah. So man, I feel like there's a few different like these pivotal moments in my life where things happened. In 2011, back then I had lost my brother. My house burnt down. Like this is one of those Murphy's Law type of deal. And that's the year where everything changed, because I was a Capricorn, first of all. So I was very stubborn, hard-headed, analytical, logical, skeptical, you name it. So, I was very stuck in my ways. And I remember when my brother passed, he was killed in a home invasion and they didn't know who did it. And next thing you know, I think a year went by and I was in California visiting. I lived in Rhode Island at the time, and I was at 7-Eleven gas station, and this lady was like checking me out. And she's like, okay. I'm like, okay. It was like 1 a.m, like after a nightclub or something like that. And, I'm getting probably Doritos or something with like gluten, whatever. I call this, before awakening Kurtis, right? And she comes up to me. She's like, hey, your brother wants to talk to you. And I'm like, oh, I'm not from California. I'm sorry. I'm from Rhode Island. You have me mistaken from somebody else. She's like, no, 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 no. She's like, I'm a medium. And I'm like, well, I'm a large. What the hell's that got to do with anything? She's like, no, sweetie. She like puts her hand on me. She's like, I'm a spirit medium. I talk to spirits that crossed over, and your brother crossed over recently, and he has some messages for you. And I got like goosebumps, and I like ran the other way. I'm like, voodoo, voodoo. And then she chased me down, gave me a card, and long story short, I ended up having a conversation with her, and my brother communicated to me through her, and he told me all these things. He's like, my sister's pregnant, you're gonna write a book, you're gonna impact the world. I'm like, first of all, I ain't never writing a book. Like, second of all, my sister's a lesbian. There's no way she's getting pregnant. I'm like, this is bogus. And then I end up calling my sister, like, hey, Kristen, are you pregnant? She's like, what? I'm like, stupid question. I'm so sorry. She goes, how the bleep did you know? And I'm like, wait, you are? She's like, no, no, no. How did you know? I did not tell anybody. So I'm like, oh, something's going on. And then go to figure, I ended up writing a book, became a #1 bestseller. I'm on my 4th book now. So I'm like, okay, I guess the spirit world is real.
Yeah.
So that was a big part of it. Shortly after, me and my mother seen a UFO, and now I started going down the UFO rabbit hole.
Mhm.
Watched all those crazy videos of all the whistleblowers, and ended up doing a CE5. It was actually a training certification. They don't even offer it anymore. And it was literally a certification to become a contact ambassador for extraterrestrials when the time comes, which is pretty close. And they come to Earth, and we actually have cohabit with them consciously. And I went there, and actually went to 2 of them. First one I went, it was 300 people. No ship showed up. I was so disappointed. I'm like, man, aliens out there. No, I'm like, no, they got to be real. They got to be real. So I ended up going to another one. It was only 12 people, and they interviewed you before you went, which is actually the proper way to do it. Because I found out later that if there's one person in the group of 300, let's say, if one person is projecting a fear vibration, they won't show up.
Messes with the field.
Yeah, they're not here to do song and dance. It's actually quite dangerous for them to show themselves like that, because all those ships have cloaking technologies. So, but the other one I went where there's only 12 people and they interviewed you, ship showed up every single day. And it's one thing to hear, a guy saying, it was 2 a.m. on my porch and I looked up and I seen the sky. It's one thing to hear that, right? And another thing to see things online. But when you see it for yourself, and undeniably there's no craft that could ever move in that speed in those different directions and disappear and reemerge, and all these things happen, you're instantly changed from one moment to the next. You are a different person. And the best way I can describe what happened to me was it felt as if a glass ceiling shattered of my consciousness. And from one moment to the next, I knew anything was possible. Mm-hmm. And that just shifted how I think. It just everything about just my makeup of who I am. And that was one of those moments that made me go deeper down the rabbit hole. What else aren't they telling us? And why don't they want us to know this? And they don't want us to know. Like, imagine if every single person on the planet knew that anything was possible, and that the whole planet's vibration would instantly boom, skyrocket. And then our reality will change, because our outer world is merely a reflection of our inner world. They don't want us having hope and like expanded consciousness and like anything is possible. And, there's loving beings out there who are looking, they don't want us to know any of that stuff. So that's the reason why it's the world's best kept secret. But we're coming to a point where that can no longer be hidden. It's inevitable. I don't know if you want to go down. I thought we were going to talk about breathwork today, but I guess it's just.
I guess we go down this weird. This is the path. This is incredible.
This is the rabbit hole we want to go down to. We can go back to breathwork, and the breathwork is the entryway, like connection with yourself, with your own energy, tuning in, vibrating higher. Like that's kind of the gateway, and then all the endless possibilities open up once you open up to yourself. You get to open up to, other higher dimensions, and that's every other being we talked about. This whole thing started talking about angels, and those are beings that we're connected to and familiar with. But then if angels are real, if you can feel them and see them and communicate with them, then why not, right? Every other kind of being that's out there. So you open up your awareness to other realms and other beings and other things that interact with humanity. And this is a special place. And people are here. Yeah, the other beings are here to help us and guide us. And so, this is such a great rabbit hole. We've kept hearing about this contact just being closer and closer and closer. And I guess, Christina, you've talked about this a lot too, about the level of awareness increasing and this incoming wave of people awakening to their light and purpose, and how there's a lot more people doing this sort of work and being called to be light workers and healers and to make contact and be ambassadors, all those things. And it's just inevitable. It feels like a snowball. We're just accelerating the pace of evolution and consciousness here in this planet.
Yeah, I feel like, maybe back in the day, it'd be like, if you believe in aliens, you're crazy, or angels and aliens. And, but now I feel like if you don't believe in those things, you're crazy. Like there's just so much, going on. And we've just reached such a pivotal point in human history where even if you look at these, religious scriptures and doctrines that have all disagreed on so much, in fact, went to war on indifferences. And if you look at these scriptures, they're all pointing to the same point, time, and space, which is where we are right now, that some sort of godly phenomenon in event is going to transpire. And it's hard to really wrap our head around that. It's our generation. And it's much closer than we think it is. And this is what I've been following. What I feel like I'm here for is for the ascension, which is a huge process that planets go through, and it's a spectacle. So it's rare, and extremely rare, one, that a planet and a civilization are ascending at the same time. Mother Earth didn't have to go through her ascension with us, right? She chose to, because she is that divine goddess of compassion, and chose for humanity to ascend with it, because She could shake us off like,
Right.
dog shakes off water, right?
Yeah.
If she really wanted to. But this is a joint venture. And, we're going through this process together. And, it's these events that, a lot of these religious scriptures talk about. And I'm not any particular religion, but I just kind of look at all of them. It's upon us. And for the ones who don't know or feel what's coming, it's going to seem like they're living in a sci-fi movie. And for the ones who do know, have a deep knowing or studied or researched or just have a feeling that something, we're on the verge of something huge, for them, it's going to feel like a dream come true.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of where you are at, because the ascension process, it's a collective event, but it's really an individual process, because it's not one person. I mean, everyone ascends at the same time. There's actually 3 waves of ascension. And the first wave are the ones who've been putting in the work, who know what's to come. And that first wave is a small group. It's not as big as you'd think it'd be. And then once those beings ascend, then they go around, doing their song and dance, let's call it, showing people what's possible. And then that opens the second wave of ascension, which is more people choose and more people are developed. And then there's a final third wave. It's the last chance for your soul to choose that ascension path, because you don't have to choose. But if you knew that the other timelines are, you wouldn't want anything else but that. But everyone's on a different path. So the third is the final ascension phase, and that's when kind of everyone will have their chance to ascend. And then if they choose not to, then they can be cleansed with the planet, because that's an inevitable process. Some people call it Armageddon and this, but it's a cleansing. But it doesn't mean that we're all going to die. That's not how the process works. So it's a beautiful, amazing process, and it's really hard to put into words, because it's literally like an Avengers movie. And for people to understand like what's going to happen, okay, well, we'll wait and see when these things start to unfold. And it's going to unfold gradually. I think moving into 2026, where towards the end, we're going to really start to see this. 2027, you hear a lot of people predicting that there's going to be mass contact, where like a whole fleet of palladium ships will show themselves to people. And I'll get Instagram talking. It's like, it doesn't take much. Like, the thing about human species is like the gift and the curse. And that's where we're so adaptable. And it's the curse because we've adapted such crappy conditions and just like global tyranny. It's like what's happening right now. Like, the food's being poisoned, the water's being poisoned, the air's being poisoned. Like, there's pedophiles running. Like, it's crazy. Like, what's really happening. And we're like, okay, this is how it's just supposed to be.
This is life. Yeah.
This is life. And no, it's not life. You're not supposed to work your ass off just to survive.
Right.
That's not normal. But we're like, oh, this is the only planet in the universe, in the multiverse of galaxies, and this is how it's supposed to be. No, we were given these conditions, and we're so adaptable that we were like, okay, this is what it is. Now, on the brighter side of that, even though this stuff seems unfathomable, once it starts to happen, and the ship show up, the ETs are here, people are talking to angels in their dreams, it's like, oh, okay, now it's normal.
Right.
It's like they'll adapt to it so quickly, because that's just how we are as humans. So it seems like this huge monumental event, but once we're in it, we're like, oh, this is how it always should have been. And it's going to be really interesting to see that shift once it starts to happen.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. And I just first of all want to say I love that we're talking about this. And I always talk about how when I feel truth and resonance, my heart chakra lights up. It feels like this like palpable energy, and that's just been going off nonstop as you've been sharing this and as you've been talking about that. I just feel it so deeply as that truth. And so I have 2 questions right now that were coming up with what you're shared. One is, where do you see us now in terms of the 3 waves that you talked about? Do you feel like we're in the second wave, or like where are we in that? And then the other part of that, what do you feel is important for people to focus on in terms of like preparing for this, let's say, you know, because I feel like that's what a question that a lot of people are going to have. How do I prepare for this? So what would you say to that?
Yeah. So we're in wave 0.
Okay. Okay. Great. I thought we were already like on a second wave over here. Good.
Oh no, it's gonna be way cooler and way more fun and like this. Like our life is really boring. Like just for everybody, it's a boring. And once you see what life is supposed to be like and the gifts we're meant to have and how the world is supposed to be, life's not going to be boring anymore. It's boring right now, and that's going to change. So we haven't reached the first wave of ascension. We're a little waves from that because there's a few things that need to transpire before then. And one is, you know, I hate to get into like light and dark and good and bad, because, you know, people mistake darkness as evil. They're two separate things. But there are, let's keep it layman's terms, there are bad people in the world. And unfortunately, these bad people are in positions of power. Before we go into phase 1 of ascension, those people need to be removed from their power. And once that happens and the light forces take over the media, right, take over the food industry, and we have actually real food and in mineralized soil and the way it's supposed to be, and they're giving truth on the news and not spreading lies and propaganda. Like those things need to happen first before we reach that, because once those things go away, for one, watch how fast poverty is eradicated. Because it's fabricated. It's not real. Even people don't even understand money concept. It's not real. They're just printing money. It's based on a fiat system, and every fiat system in human history has failed. They don't have the gold that's backing it. It's just paper and a belief system. And there's plenty enough to go around. Isn't that the whole definition of abundance? Right? So are we living in an abundant life, or are we living in scarcity? Right? They want us to live in scarcity because that puts us that fuels the matrix. So those things the people need to come out of power. And then once poverty is eradicated and homelessness, like all these basic needs, those need to be fixed first. Now, once people get to out of fight and flight, because if you have to, like, we got it a little good in America, I guess you could say, but I travel the world and it's not all peaches and cream everywhere. And, people are stuck in survival mode. And if we're doing this thing together, we need to get them out of survival mode, because they're just another aspect of us. And that's, a deeper spiritual truth where you hear all this cliche stuff like we're all one. And, the answers are within the kingdom of heaven. It's like, it's so cliche, but it's really all truth. And you have to have your own spiritual experience to really understand, wow, now I know what that means. Maybe you smoke DMT or drink ayahuasca but whatever, you'll find a way to realize that, wow, we are all one. And it's the truth. So we need to get people out of survival mode. And when those things happen, then there's going to be new technologies that already exist, but they've been suppressed. And these technologies will heal 99.9% of all diseases. And, those technologies can't come in until the powers that quote unquote be, they're blocking them. So once they're removed and these new technologies come in, it's like we need to heal physically, and then spiritually. And then that's going to move us into the first wave of ascension. And then there's all a bunch of things that come with that disclosure. And like, it's just not going to be a boring moment from that moment that I first talk about that kicks it off, which is called the event. That's what I talk about in my first book, is the event.
Okay. And that's the mass contact event that's going to kind of shake us off.
No. That's going to come after that. There could be things, because the official one, let's call it, there's going to be things that's going to happen that's going to pepper humanity's consciousness, like 3-Eye Atlas, right? It's like, people are like, it's a ship, it's this, it's that, right? People are like, Kurtis, what is it? I'm like, for one, it doesn't matter. The fact that the news is talking about it, you're talking about it, and that there's an interstellar object from outer space that has the ability to affect our planet, it served its purpose. That's the reason of it. It's not a ship. First of all, ships don't. They have cloaking technology. They're just not showing themselves. Why is a ship going to be, look at me, I'm purple, I'm blue, I'm green, I'm changing colors, I'm moving design. Like, it doesn't need all that attention. It's a comet. It's an unusual comet. and it's serving its purpose. And there's going to be more things like that, whether it's comet sighting, shipped, or disclosure, or the president and the vice president just said aliens are spiritual. Like, you're going to see so much of that. And that needs to happen, because once they do show up, humanity was already being prepped, whether they realized it or not. And even the person saying or telling or sharing realized it or not, it's a divine plan. You can't stop it. It's in full effect. So the event that triggers everything is those people have to get out of power. It's a small amount. You'd be shocked at how many people it is. It's a small amount who are really responsible for the majority of humanity's suffering. And it just is what it is.
And that's what you're referring to when you say they, right?
Yeah. Yes, that's what I mean. For the most part, I'm not sure how many times I said they, but they. In that context, yes, they. That's going to be the event, because and it's just really interesting how this whole Epstein files stuff is kind of like been juggling, and maybe that's a part of it. Maybe that's the domino.
It's all adding up.
Yeah, but it just is bigger than Epstein. This plan has been in motion for a long time, but it needs to be strategically carried out, because it's like a war situation, right? So when you have war, the best thing that you can have in war is hostages, and humanity is the hostage right now. They just don't realize it. So in order to minimize the casualties of just going in and taking out these people, it's like a villain movie. They have a red button, and there's a red button, and if you come too close, they're like, and then they'll do it.
Yeah.
They've done it in the past. Look at Atlantis, look at Lemuria. Like, this is historic things. It's not in a textbook, but they're real things. So they know that. So light workers hate to say this. I hate to hear this, but the longer this gets dragged on, it sucks because we have to endure it longer, but the safer it is for humanity and the more beautiful of a timeline that will unfold. The good news is that this was supposed to happen a long time ago. So we're on the final timeline. This is already the extended timeline. And now it's at the point where things have to start. It's like they bubble. That's why they call it the compression breakthrough, because the Earth's getting liberated from the outside in. So if this is the planet, the light's coming from the bottom, the light's coming from the top, and everything's been purified from astral realms and all these other dimensions. And now, where we are right now, we've reached a spot where it's all the surface. So now all the liberation is going to be happening on the surface of the planet, as before it was a spiritual war. So you're waking up I don't know why I keep waking up tired, because you're fighting an astral war with your angelic gang. That's why. And you wake up and you're like, I think I need a coffee.
You're doing all the hard work in your sleep. That's so interesting. I love it so much. And it makes sense in a lot of ways. And we've been, hearing a lot about this. But one of the most frustrating things is, to live in a time where there shouldn't be poverty, there shouldn't be hunger, we know better. We have the technology, even with what we can perceive, and that's public knowledge. Just that alone, we could be like Star Trek level, like we could be producing our own food. These are not problems we should be having as a humanity in this day and age with the technology that we have. And it's just, why are we doing this to ourselves, and what's the interest there, and what the control and power and money and all those things come into play. But definitely we have everything that we need to be living very, very differently, so that everyone on Earth could be under different conditions. And once you're out of survival, you have time and space to think about yourself, spirituality, connecting with yourself, creation, what's your place in the universe. Otherwise, you're just figuring out your next meal. Otherwise, you're just suffering because you have this disease or that thing. So it makes so much sense that would be a progression to heal ourselves first in order to ascend later. And I guess that's a good segue into the detox of it all. And how do you come to this other philosophy that's kind of prepping us in a way to start our own little awakening at an individual level? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that was, I think that question ties into Christina's about like, what can they focus on, right? And, first of all, don't focus on the darkness and the people that need to get taken out. Like, that's not going to help. It's good to understand the situation, that can bring peace of mind if you're like, oh, okay, this isn't normal. Good, I'm not crazy. But always focusing on the solution is going to be like Socrates says, don't waste your energy fighting the old, but only by building the new. We have to build the new, but we do need healing. And that fight or flight and that survival mode isn't just people who don't know where their meal's coming from. You could be in a corporate job, nice 9 to 5, and you're working check to check to pay your bills every single month and to keep a house, for your family. And there's more women doing this alone now more than ever as well. So that you're still in survival mode, just because you're not in a third world country and whatnot. So yeah, that abundance needs to be restored to humanity. Now, when the process, while that's happening, we need to control what we can control, and that's us, right? How can I make my life better, my quality of my life better? And from my personal experience, I realized that it's not about manifesting like, oh, I want this, I need this, I want this, I need this, because we all know what we want, right? Want a better job, want a loving husband, a loving wife, we want money, we want to travel, like we all want the same things, right? But that's not the issue, because if that's the case, right, and the law of attraction's like, okay, if you think about it and you want it and then you can see yourself with it and then it's yours. It doesn't work like that. Yeah. If it did, we'd all be happy. The problem is, and this is where the breathwork detox came in, is that in order to let in, we first need to let go. The reason why our manifestations are being blocked is because we're blocking it, with old energies that we're holding on to, right? We haven't made space for our blessings to come in. It's like the meme you ever see. I think it's like Jesus and the little girl has a teddy bear and he's trying to take the teddy bear from her. She's like, no, it's my teddy bear. And then behind his back, he has a giant teddy bear that's way bigger, but she's still stuck on that one. He's like, I got something better for you, but she doesn't know it. And that's how we are. It's like we hold on to these past grudges, right? When you hold on to grudges, you're holding on to pain. We could be holding on to past heartbreaks, still mad at our exes, or past failures, things that we've tried and that it didn't work out, and we think we're a failure when really that was just supposed to be acquired new skill sets and lessons to prepare you for your next venture. But yet we let that failure make us believe that we're a failure, and we just accepted that, and then the fear to move forward. It's things like that blocks. Or maybe it was childhood trauma. Something happened to you when you were younger and you blocked it out of your mind. And then all of a sudden, it's like a beacon, and it's like beep beeps, like the airplanes, right? When the airplane goes down in a crash, and that airplane, say, just explodes or whatever, there's a black box in there, and that black box is indestructible, and it records everything that's happening in that plane when it's going down, all the screams and the trauma. And that's what happens with us, whether it's childhood or past lives. Those traumas are like black boxes in our bodies located somewhere, and they're like beep beep beep, and maybe it's like a pain in the body, or maybe it's just something trying to get your attention. And it's time for us to go in and open up these black boxes, because once you do, what does the family do? Right? When they open it up, they listen, they see what's going on, they have a new narrative, they know what happened, and then they share the information with the families, and then it acts as a form of closure. And then that allows you to heal. It's no different from the traumas that we've experienced this lifetime or other lifetimes. We really need to address those things that we're holding on to. Now, it doesn't have to be as deep as trauma, right? Trauma is such a scary word. And I say it all the time. I hear it all the time. It's a scary word because but if it scares you, if someone said, like, if you think you have trauma, if that scares you, just that word, well, then you probably have it.
You probably have.
And I'll take away probably's a wobbly. You definitely have it. And that's what's holding you back, is that feeling, that fear. So I love to give the analogy, an airplane, right? We're all trying to land somewhere in life, somewhere new in life. And if there's something on our runway that hasn't been cleared, air traffic controller is going to tell you to do what? Fly in circles until the runway's cleared. So this is why a lot of people feel they can see where they want to go. Like they know what to do, but they don't do what they know. And they know where they want to get to, but they can't get there. And it's so annoying because you see all these other people on Instagram living this life and you're like, I can't touch it. And it's because they haven't cleared their runway. They haven't cleared the stuff out of their life to make room, right? So they can get what they want. So I think if they're going to focus on anything, it's not wanting more, getting more money, getting all this. It's how much can I let go of, right? So it's like, you know, I guess the real wisdom isn't like was seeing what you can acquire. It's seeing what you can let go of. And if you can learn to do that instead of want, I think that was the biggest game changer with me because I want a lot of things. And then I realized, whoa, I don't think I can carry all this stuff. I got a lot of crap wrong with me and a lot of trauma and even stuff from childhood. And you know, breath work is what made me even realize it. I didn't even know until I started breath work and I started peeling back the layers. And the interesting thing about, you know, trauma and suppressed emotions is you don't realize that you're holding on to them until you release them. Because all of a sudden you feel more buoyant, you feel more lighter, you feel more brighter. And you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that was taking up so much space in my mind and my body. And, you know, I'd make a practice out of that, you know, seeing what you can let go of. And that also includes forgiveness. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful things that you can do. They say it's the most selfish thing that you can do because it's the greatest thing that you can do for yourself. Because when you forgive, you free yourself from the shackles of resentment and pain or, you know, whatever it may be. And I think Buddha said it best. He's like, when we hold on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Yeah.
It doesn't like that's like when you don't forgive and you have anger, it's like you're the only one getting punished because you feel those negative vibrations that in you, not that person.
The other person doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah,
They're
it's like
doing their own thing. Yeah.
yeah. How can I get unmad? Right.
Right.
And I think changing your perspective, I think that's the key because like people say you heal over time. And, you know, I disagree with that statement because I think it's what happens over time is what allows you to heal. And what happens is you having more life lessons and experiences and extrapolating that wisdom from those experiences. And then now you see things from a higher perspective, higher consciousness, higher vantage point. And you're like, oh, now I know why that person did that. Oh, now I know why I had to have that experience. Oh, I understand. I get it now. Oh, I can see that perspective. So when you shift the perspective, that changes everything, how you saw it, how you see it, your beliefs on it. And that allows us to heal. So I think that's a practice as well.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And yeah, I love that concept of not how many, what can I acquire, what do I want, but actually what can I let go? Because I feel like at the end of the day, the way that I see it too is it's almost like removing the layers that are not our truth. And when you let go of these things, what's left? It's the pure light of who you are, like the truth of who you are. And so it sounds like breathwork has been a really powerful modality for you that you've come upon and that you use to support you with that. So can you walk us through a little bit in terms of how that works, or if someone's listening to this and is like, okay, how can I start to do that, or how can breathwork support me? Like, how does that process work exactly?
Yeah. So first of all, a breath work is an umbrella term, pretty much like yoga, right? There's tons of different yogas. You got hot yoga, yin yoga, power yoga, kundalini yoga. So when you hear the term breath work, there's many forms of breath work. The one that I teach and certify people in is deep diaphragmatic breath work. It's the most somatic, cathartic, not just breathing technique, but natural healing modality out there. And I've literally traveled the world looking for natural healing modalities when I had that stomach condition. And I, you know, went to the jungle, and at the time, I think I drank ayahuasca 14 times, up to 20 times now. So I've tried many invasive things as well. And when I found breath work, it was like, this is it. You know, this is the secret sauce. And, you know, none of those other modalities could heal my stomach condition where I was, you know, suffering for 5 years. And I did one breathing session with a specific technique, and it completely eradicated my stomach condition in one session.
Wow.
And then I was like, oh my God. So mind you, the Capricorns kept kicking in. And I'm like, wait, how is this possible? I need to know the science. I need to know the facts. Like I couldn't wrap my head around it. And then I was like, wait a second. The reason why, like it hit me, and like the reason why these doctors couldn't tell me what was wrong with me is because my issue wasn't physical. It was energetic. It was emotional.
Right.
And, I didn't have the tools for that. So that's what, really made me believe, okay, out of all the things that I did, this is the one that's the most powerful, like hands down it was. So the technique is a mouth breathing technique, which is interesting because 99.9% of the time you should be breathing through your nose. You shouldn't be breathing through your mouth. However, your mouth is an energetic exodus. So it's the way where the body releases pain and stress naturally. So if your body is just sitting here, it can be unbeknownst to your conscious mind. And all of a sudden you start thinking about all these things, you start getting tense, you start getting stressed. And all of a sudden, like the chronic stress starts to build and build and build. Your body would do something like this. It'd build and build, and then all of a sudden it would go, it would do a sigh of relief. It's the body's natural way to relieve stress and tension and pain is a breath. And then it goes, you don't do it out the nose, you do it out the mouth. So we take that mouth breathing and then we do it for a very specific amount of time in a circular breathing motion where you're building the momentum, building the oxygen and energy in the body. And then people have these huge release. And I'm talking like bare minimum, 50, 60% of the people, are crying, like hysterically crying. Some people are laughing, whatever form of purge it is for them. I've seen it all. Some pretty interesting stuff. And it has nothing to do with male, female, because I've taught this for the most masculine men in the world. We're talking war veterans, Navy SEALs, NFL athletes, Olympians. They all cry because we're all human. And all crying is a huge energetic release. It's a huge emotional release. And that's the release that we're looking for. It's a golden opportunity. I tell people, if you feel like you're going to cry, you better friggin' cry, because it's the only sin in breath work is if you start to breathe and if you feel something and then all of a sudden you do what you've done for the last 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, and you push that emotion back down where it's only going to sit there and wreak havoc on your nervous system. It's like, no, that was your golden opportunity to release and to finally let go and become more free, more buoyant, and create that space for your blessings. But people are addicted to their own suffering. And
That's true.
That's so true. I am that person. I'm a pressure cooker. I just put everything in, and if the tears come up, I'll put them back down. Just don't come out. Don't show them.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely guilty of that, and that's so important for us to be aware of that. That's actually only gonna make us lighter and brighter and more buoyant and all of that. So, but being in touch with your feelings in such the word's not basic, but fundamental way. This is the one of the functions that we can control, and we can kind of play around with. And this is something we don't need a tool. We don't need like a fancy cushion. We don't need anything. We just need to breathe, and that's so powerful and so accessible for anyone, which is also so important to know that you get to access that, and you are all you need to heal yourself and to release and heal your trauma. So that's amazing.
Go figure.
Go figure.
We were made for everything we need.
Everything we needed was just right in here. That's so interesting. Okay, so I'm curious, like, because I read you have so many different modalities and things that you practice. So breath work is central to your work, but you're also a hypnotherapist and you do NLP, all the thing, Reiki. So I'm really curious just to know about your personal practice with all these, the tools in your toolkit. What do you actually do in your regular life when you're not teaching, when you're not on a stage? What do you do personally?
Yeah. So I've collected so many different tools and modalities that at one point I collected so many, I didn't do any.
Yes, that happens a lot. Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I got to focus my energy on only the things that are going to move the needle. And if I say I'm going to do this into my ritual, then I need to understand why I'm doing it. because if not, I'll disconnect. And why am I even doing this? Oh,
Mhm.
this is why I'm doing this. So the things that work best for me is the moment I open my eyes is dream journal. And the reason why I do that is because I want to build the bridge between my subconscious and my conscious mind, right? My conscious mind is 5% of who I am. So right now, it's the stupidest part of me that's talking to you. But 95% of who I am and how I operate is my subconscious, right? And I go into this dream world for 8 hours, right? And there's tons of information in there that I could be using. So I want to strengthen that bridge. And the only time you have to strengthen that bridge is the moment you wake up, is to be able to recall your dream. So dream recall is really important for me in the morning time. And then from there, I'll go and do anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes of breath work. So I kind of do two things. I do this like neck curvature thing. My neck goes back, and then I lay on my back on my frog pose. So I'm like doing a yoga pose, stretching out my hips. So I do it all at the same time, so I don't have to do them all separately. And then I'll do the breath work there, and from there, then I go and I do certain types of stretches for me and my body. It's not a full blown yoga. It's probably like 25 minutes, and then cold plunge, and then gym, and then come back, and then I do my own meditation. And those are the things that work best for me. And I believe that if I was to do just one of them, I could only do one of them, it would absolutely be breath work, because that's the one that's the most compounded, right? It's like all, there's so many things stacked into it. So like you talked about, like, the life coaching, the NLP, the hypnotherapy, all of those are into the breathwork detox modality. So when I'm teaching that, they're getting all of those things in that one breath work. And it's also moving the body. It's creating, the more gut motility, my peristalsis. So your digestion, gut brain connection comes back online. And that's where 80% of our serotonin is produced, is in our gut. 80% of our immune system is in our gut. It's the core engine of our vitality, where all 72,000 nadis, which are energetic channels, intersect. So your health, your happiness, and your energy, 80% of it is in the gut. And we don't breathe in our belly no more. Most people are doing paradoxical breathing. They're breathing all in their chest and their shoulders, all up here. But if you watch a baby breathe, when the baby breathes in, the belly moves out. And our bellies don't do that anymore, because as adults, right, we got bills, we got stress, we got heartbreak, we got all these things we had to deal with. And so those diaphragms get tense and we don't breathe down there. And there's a fear, because the subconscious knows that that's where the body holds on to emotions. And that's why when people go through something, you notice that they'll gain a little weight in their stomach area, because on a subconscious level, they'll put weight there to protect their vulnerability. So there's a lot going on in that mid stomach section, which is the most vulnerable section of your entire body, is the belly. I do this exercise in my training, where I usually get a male, and I'll get a male, have him stand there, and I'll like, all right, ready? And he's like, what? And I run at him straight. I was like, everybody watch. I just run at him like a football player. He's like, what is this guy doing to me? And then right before I get to like barge him and like push him into the wall, he'll protect himself, but he'll protect his stomach. He didn't protect his throat, or his private jewels, right? He didn't protect any of those things. He protected his stomach. And I proved to them, this is the most vulnerable area. That's why we protect that. So we're constantly protected. So when we breathe down there, we're given permission to open that center up and to release all the things that we've been holding on to, because that's where we're storing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's so interesting. It makes so much sense. Good food, water, breath. Just if only we were to do that. Just that's amazing. I love it so much.
Yeah, as you were talking about that, I was starting to think about like where I'm breathing, and I'm like, wait, let me see if I can get into my belly right now as we're talking.
Yeah.
But that's such a good point you brought up, even observing babies. And yeah, it's so true, like their stomach. And it's just so fascinating and really cool to see how the thing that literally gives us life, the breath, that we also most of the time are not consciously thinking about, or like we're going about our day not thinking, I need to breathe in, I need to breathe out, like we're not doing that on that level. But it's also the way in which we are able to really transform and heal and come back to our true self. I feel like at the end of the day, that's so Amazing. That's so powerful. And I've had a few breath work experiences where like through that, I think it was through the open mouth as well, and kind of like feeling like it was an experience where my whole body kind of like, I don't know, I don't know how to describe it. Like just that I could feel the energy. My hands were like, I don't know, in a weird kind of like feel tensed up in a way because I feel like something was being activated, and going through this arc of emotion too of like sadness and joy and this and that. And like at the end of the day, it was kind of like this coming back to myself of this sense of peace and calm. But it was really interesting experience to go through that. Do you find that that's a common, like, it's not just you're going to be releasing all these things coming out, but also brings you back to peace at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, it's like all those things that you're feeling, those are all the things that were inside of you.
Mm.
And it brings it to the forefront. It just starts oh, here's some sadness. Oh, here's some laughter. Here's some happiness. Oh, there's love there. Like, it's just all these things, and they're like packed in there through these experiences throughout our life.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is like the body, they say the body keeps score.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because the body is a living library of all of our past experiences. And this is why they say the issues are in the tissues. The soul always wants to be present, but the mind lives into the future, always wants to live into the future, but the body holds on to the past. So when we're able to breathe with this particular technique of, deep diaphragmatic breath work, you begin to unpack all the things that's been stored away, and it restores the flow, the equanimity, the balance back in the body. And that's where at the end you're like, oh, I came home back to myself. I feel more me again. And that's what happened to me. I felt like I came back online. Like I was me again. And if I'm, my buddy, just talked to him the other day. He's like, man, he was like, I was in a bad mood. My girl's yelling at me, and she's like, go do breath work. Go do Kurtis's breath work. And he's like, yeah, whatever, blah. He's like, so I actually listened to her. I went in the closet. I shut the door and I did. I was like, did you feel better? He goes, I really did. He goes, I felt amazing. I didn't want to tell her I did it. So it's a great reset. Like people came, I did an event last night. I do them every full moon and every new moon virtually. And I do a quick poll. Hey, why'd you show up? And the majority of people were like, I need a reset. I need a reset. I need a reboot. And I think that's the greatest thing. You can come however you're feeling, and you get that reboot, because I tell people, if you want to, and Tony Robbins says the same thing. He said out of all 48 years he's been teaching, they ask him, like, what's the one thing someone can do to change their life? He said, the one thing that you can do is change your state. And the easiest way to change your state is to change your breathing, because your breathing is connected. Every breathing pattern is connected to a specific emotion. And you start your breathing, you start communicating to the body to change its state. And that's when you're able to get out of that quote unquote funk, right? How many people are listening where they feel stuck and they need to get unstuck, right? So this is the modality that allows you to do that. And you don't have to wait 6 months or 3 months for, all these results like you would in meditation or yoga. Unlike yoga and meditation, the results of breath work are immediate and undeniable from one session. And I think that's what people need today, especially living in the microwave society that we live in, where people want to see results and they want to see them fast. Trust me, I wish I can go to the gym and next morning have a six pack. I wish it was like that, but we don't have that technology yet.
I'm sure we have it somewhere out there.
It's coming. It's coming.
Coming real soon. That's so interesting. I love it so much. Yeah, it's nice and simple. It's accessible, and it's a way that we have to just reset, recalibrate, and just live life in a different, more connected, present way. And that's the key, right? And that's how we start to open up and awaken and send and all the other things.
And yeah. And I was just going to say, at the end of the day, it's preparing us for what's coming, and for, kind of tying it back to what we were talking about at the beginning, preparing us for the ways of ascension and the ETs and just all of that coming together. I feel like
wonderful stuff that's coming up. Yeah.
Yeah. Why we really came here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Experiences.
Exactly. The actual work that we're doing here today. So I could go on and on about being from the stars. It's just fascinating. All the stuff that's happening and unraveling in the background. And some people are aware of it, and more people are starting to be aware of it. And it's just exciting times. It's really great.
Yeah.
I guess, I mean, we're almost close to an hour, so I want to be mindful of time. But I want to turn it over to you in a way and ask you, you have a lot of these conversations, you're a public speaker, but what is one question that no one really asks that you wish they did?
Ooh, okay, I see what you did there. One question that no one ever asked. You might have stumped me. You might have stumped me. That they never ask. So it's something I'm never thinking about. That I want them to ask.
Yes, something that you truly wish you could talk about and let light workers and people to know. That's really important.
You might have to bring me back on the podcast.
We totally will.
Because I gotta really think about that. I'm not sure. You know, I think I wrote that book a long time ago,
Hmm.
but when I started the podcast circuit, it wasn't to promote that book. It was more to give people the tools of breath work. And it wasn't till recently. Like I never was even talking about this stuff on podcasts. I probably only talked about it like this and two others. But the first one was, I think it was Jessica, I forget the Lightwork podcast.
Swig?
And
Jessica Swig?
yes, her. So I did her podcast, and she's amazing, by the way. And I thought I was going to talk about breath work, and she came on and was like, aliens, aliens, aliens. I'm like, oh boy. And it was an in-person podcast. So I couldn't be like, bad connection. Bye. And the whole podcast was all about kind of like what we started in that. And that was the first time I've talked about it on a podcast. So, you know, I feel like I want more people to start the conversation like we had today, because I think that's the most important is, you know, maybe not the most important, because I think having the tools is important, but I feel like people need to know the truth. I feel like they want to know the truth. And if we can make sense of why the world the way it is right now, and they had hope, because if you look on the spectrum of emotions, right? And you have, you know, authenticity and unconditional love and all these things at the very, very peak. The most bottomless one with the lowest vibration is hopelessness. And that's what they want to pit us into, right? That hopelessness. And look at every superhero movie, right? What happens? They want to get them to a state of hopelessness. And then at the very end, right? And then the hero comes or whatever. So that's a sad place to be in, right? When you don't have that hope. And a lot of people are in that space because they're stuck in the matrix. They're stuck in this cycle that we talked about earlier. And I think if they can have hope of what's to come and what to look forward to, you know, that could just, you know, bring their vibration up to a point where it's like the truth will start coming to them, and they'll tap into that frequency, and then now they become a beacon, they become a light worker, you know. And I think that's we're here, you know, we have light workers, we have light warriors, and we're supposed to work together. You know, the light workers, those are the ones who are meant to just hold the light. They're healers, you know, they're you know, this and that. And then there's also light warriors, right? Who are doing the same thing, but they're also fighting the darkness, right? They know about, you know, the darkness, and like a lot of shamans. You can't be a shaman without understanding the darkness. You know, now you can be a Reiki master and not understand the darkness, but you can't be a shaman, right? But we're on the same team, you know, and that's where we need to come together and each play our part. And sometimes you just awakening and becoming more hopeful, that could be your part, because now you become a beacon. Now you're a light worker because you're holding the light for the planet. As insignificant as that may sound, you know, it's a huge job to hold the light, because that's why we're here, you know. And because this planet, when it got usurped, the only way we could liberate the planet, because it was quarantined, was not from the outside, you know, coming in. We had to go from the inside and liberate it out. And the only way was to come in through incarnation.
Right.
So, but here's the thing: when the beacon went out, that Earth got usurped, and you know, to trillions of light beings all over. You know how many? You know what the beings all said? They said, "Oh hell no." They were afraid to come to Earth.
Yeah.
It's not paradise. Like, imagine if I just say, hey, you want to volunteer, and you two women for the next 50 years are going to go to Rikers Island and be in prison.
Right.
You're going to be like, I think I'm going to pass, right? No, you're not going to do it. But the ones who said yes, right? So if you're listening to this podcast, that means you said yes to incarnating here during this time. And you're some of the most bravest souls in the galaxy. And if you can really wrap your head around that, it is a monumental feat to be here at this planet at this time. Yeah. If you knew the totality of what was going on in the cosmos and what was really happening here on Earth, you would give yourself a hell of a lot more credit.
Yeah. We're stronger than we think. That's amazing.
Yeah.
100%.
Amazing. Yeah. I think that's such a beautiful, powerful message to end this conversation with. So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And the other quick comment I just wanted to add is I think it's really interesting how right now it seems like having these conversations and, like you said yourself, being on different podcasts, it seems like that topic is wanting to come forward more. It's almost like you can't control, like, we're just going to talk about breath work. They're like, no, we're talking about this because people need to know it. And so the people are ready to hear it. And as I'm saying that, I'm feeling like
ringing in
my ears. That's so crazy.
I get goosebumps too.
Whoa. Yeah, there we go. So on that note, Kurtis, if you could please share with our audience where they can connect with you, learn more about your book, all the things, and how they can stay in contact with you. That would be amazing.
Yeah, so I guess two ways. One would be my personal Instagram, which is Man from the Stars. Go figure. So just put.
Now we understand why you called the name. I was wondering for a second.
So just go on Instagram, one word, Man from the Stars. They can follow me on there. I'm pretty good with DMs and messages. And then also, if they want to experience a breathwork detox, we do virtual every 2 weeks. So you can go to breathworkdetox.com. And then also, if they're interested in being a teacher, we offer a free masterclass that they can watch, and we give some free gifts, free consultations. So they'll see that program suite there. And those would be the two, Man from the Stars, Breathwork Detox.
Amazing. This was incredible. I had such an amazing time and learned so much. So thank you again, Kurtis, for joining us today. It was such a pleasure to connect with you.
Thank you for having me. I'll be back.
Yes, absolutely. Have to be back. We have so much more to talk about. Thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure.